good morning, folks. Good morning, and welcome to another Friday morning gathering of Around the Table here with your host, Dimitri Pikey Copemann. And of course, as you know by now, I've been away for about 2 weeks, and I'm back here now, and it's good to be back. And we're going to have our regular show around the table, and of course, we want to say good morning to the Virgin Islands, good morning to the Caribbean, and we want to say good morning to the world. And we want to say, join us, welcome, and join us around the table for some lively discussion. And of course, you know, we're always here around the table. We're here to entertain our callers, but we focus on history. And of course, you may call to ask a question. You can call to offer your opinion or call to share some piece of knowledge here with us because that is what the program is about, the sharing and spreading of knowledge and information so that we could be empowered. And of course, my motto, knowledge is power. Yes, knowledge put to the proper use is power. And when you have power, you have the ability to control and direct your life. And so in that light, we want to invite you to give us a call. And those who want to call, the numbers are 773-0390 and 773-0490. Those telephone numbers, once again, are 773-0390 and 773-0490. And please don't forget, for those of you who are calling from outside of the Virgin Islands, you will need to use the 340 area code in order to get through. And right now, the time is about 28 minutes after the hour of 8 o'clock. We apologize for the late start, but we're here nevertheless to start. And we will bring in the legendary one, and he will tell us about the beautiful morning time.
Morning time. Everybody say good morning time.
This is one of the themes that I play. It's an old calypso, Trinidadian calypso.
Nice. Who's
The singer is a fellow by the name of King Solomon. King Solomon, and
Wake up the beauty.
we don't hear anything about King Solomon anymore. He was probably an old calypsonian from about maybe in the 1950s, that type.
Tell me what.
And he just played the guitar and sing.
Morning time.
He was a little bit more old-timeish than like say Sparrow, the Mighty Sparrow, and the more modern people. But I like the song because he sang about the morning time. My show was so early at 8 o'clock in the morning, so you know.
Tell me you're going to leave me now.
It plays for about a minute or two, and then it's very short.
Yeah. This reminds me of the style I grew up with.
And then I go into
Okay, what are you talking about?
well, before I get into the history, I usually have a list of I get what you call axioms or adages, maxims, wisdom teachings that come from ancient Egypt that I read. And I read these because I think the principles are positive, good, positive, principles, values that anyone can follow. I mean, and I think it's a good guide to live in. And I can do it mainly, well, that kind of a way I do it, hoping that people who seek public office, politicians, may hear and may, be influenced by some of it.
Be influenced.
We
can only hope.
Did you get to see it, or did you get to see it?
Everybody wake up morning time. They come from home, they come from home, they come from home. They come from home, they come from home.
Oh yes, they always come from mountainside, and that's the legendary one, King Solomon, telling us about the beautiful morning time. You know, he said, Telma, watch the banana trees. You know, I guess the banana trees look so lovely and they're growing so nice. So Telma, you gotta be careful. Watch the banana trees. Yes, folks, and before I start my daily reading, I would like to extend some condolences and sympathies out to those who have lost family, friends, and loved ones during these past few weeks. Uh, I've heard about a few people that I know, a few names that I know who have passed. I won't call the names because I don't really have any verification, and I don't want to mistakenly call anybody's name. But yes, we extend condolences and sympathies to all those who have lost loved ones, family, and friends. And so now I will start with my daily reading. When a man teaches, he speaks to the future. When a man teaches, he speaks to the future. And of course, uh, that should be a little self-explanatory because when you teach positive, good things, your teachings live on. Long after you have passed, your teachings live on. So when a man teaches, he speaks to the future. Speak ma'at and do ma'at. Speak ma'at, do ma'at. And we know ma'at is the ancient symbol for truth, justice, and righteousness. Truth, justice, and righteousness. And to these we may add balance, harmony, and reciprocity. Balance, harmony, and reciprocity. Strive for excellence in all you do, so that no fault can be found in your character. Strive for excellence in all you do, so that no fault can be found in your character. It is in the development of character that instruction succeeds. It is in the development of character that instruction succeeds. And these two maxims really and always remind me of uh, some of my elementary school teachers because those old time teachers. I came up in the old school, and many of those old time teachers they stress character. You know, they put an importance on the academics and education, but they included character. It was about the person's, development. The development of character was also included in your education. And I think about people like Miss Hilda B. England and those old-time educators. My first grade teacher, Miss Kathleen Joseph, and all the others. They stress character development. Do ma'at that you might live long upon the earth. Do ma'at that you might live long upon the earth. Ma'at is that which endures and raises a person and a people up. Ma'at is that which endures and raises a person and a people up. And that is why these ancient African civilizations lasted so long, especially the Nile Valley civilization, because they were founded on these principles. Ma'at was a principle, but it was also represented by a goddess with the feather of truth. Yes, and Ma'at, they were founded on Ma'at, and that is why those civilizations lasted so long. Truth, justice, righteousness, balance, harmony, reciprocity. Sweeter is the water of one who has given than the wine of one who has received. Sweeter is the water of one who has given than the wine of one who has received. Do to the doer that he may also do. Do to the doer that he may also do. And that one especially reminds me of uh, The golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And I can remember my first grade teacher, Miss Kathleen Joseph. She had that pasted in the front of the class, right above the blackboard. And a banner. It was a banner pasted at the top of the blackboard, written in golden letters. And she would have us recite that every morning. You know, after you said at that time you said prayers in school, and after prayers you said your pledge of allegiance, the flag, and then she would have us recite the golden rule. I always kept that at the front of our memories, every day. Let your generosity reach one who needs it. Let your generosity reach one who needs it. And I think that is also self-explanatory. Let your generosity reach one who needs it. It is not food or wealth which sustains a people and a community. It is righteousness. It is not food or wealth which sustains a people and a community. It is righteousness. When character is lost, all is lost. When character is lost, all is lost. The ruin of a nation begins in the homes of its people. The ruin of a nation begins in the homes of its people. And those folks are the daily maxims and adages, axioms for the day, the wisdom teachings that come from our ancestors, and they are still very profound and very useful and still can be followed to this day. And I sincerely believe that if we follow many of these maxims, we can live a better life. And so those are the daily maxims for the day. Now we want to get into a little bit of history. I have here with me a book that was written by Harold Willacks, and most of us know that Harold Willacks is now the chief judge of the what used to be the territorial court is now called the Superior Court of the Virgin Islands. Yes, Mr. Harold Willacks has written a few books before, and the most prominent one is a book entitled The Umbilical Cord, which is a history book or social studies book. It's about Virgin Islands history, the umbilical cord, and it was written basically for the high school level, and adults can also use it, but it was mainly for high school level. And I believe the book is still being used as a text at the St. Croix Educational Complex High School. If I'm not mistaken, the book is still being used as a text there. He has written a very simpler, more elementary version. That one I can't rightly remember the name, the title of it, but it was geared towards the elementary school level for fourth graders and whatnot. And then he has published a new one, and the title of this new book is called By the Bayside. And I'm trying to see the. Yes, this was published in 2020, not very long ago. But I received a copy from him a few months back, and I'm going to try to do a little small review of the book. And I believe he was trying to answer the call for a social studies text to be used in the public schools. We know that there's an ongoing issue right now with the law that was passed that says that Virgin Islands history and basic Caribbean history should be taught in the schools from kindergarten to 12th. And there's been a lot of controversy surrounding that whole issue, so much so that it has gone to court. And there were people who took the issue to court and tried to get the courts to order the Department of Education to begin teaching Virgin Islands history and basic Caribbean history in the schools. And so I believe Mr. Willacks was trying to address that situation because one of the issues was that we didn't have any books. And over the years, there have been books that were used to teach Virgin Island history. Unfortunately, most of those books have gone out of print. The only one that is still in print is the umbilical cord. But I can remember there were some books, one in particular was for the 4th grade, book entitled Clear the Road. It was a 4th grade book, but it was a paperback. And so after about 2 or 3 years, the books were in real bad condition. And somehow or the other, the department never reordered new editions of the book. And I am not sure if the author, I think it was Mr. Roger Hill from St. Thomas, was the author of that book. I'm not sure if he published any more of it. I'm not sure if he even if he's still alive. I believe he is because I haven't heard anything about him passing. But that book has gone out of print as well as a couple of other books that have been used. But by the Bayside is a hardcover text, which and when I looked through the book, it seems to have been written for the elementary level, but judging from the language, I can see that it's something that can be used on the junior high school level, or what some people would refer to as the middle school level, and even high school level. And the book begins actually with, it deals with some of the civics, which has been an ongoing issue again about teaching of Virgin Islands history, the teaching of Virgin Islands civics. And the book starts off with the geography. Chapter 1 deals with the geography of the islands. And chapter 2 gets into some of the the civics, dealing with the government, talking about how the islands were founded, the two towns in St. Croix, the capital of Charlotte Amalie in St. Thomas, and we have Coral Bay and Cruise Bay in St. John. The book goes on to chapter 3 to deal with issues such as the flag, the Virgin Islands flag, the Danish flag, the official bird of the territory, the official flower, and the Virgin Islands March. And so we can see basically that the first 3 to 4 chapters deal with civics, and not just civics, but also the geography and how the government is arranged and everything. It talks about the climate and the more modern aspects of the history. As we get to chapter 5, and actually the book contains about what I said, and it's the book contains actually 12 chapters, and there's a glossary, there's an appendix, and there's an appendix 2, and appendix 3, appendix 4. The appendix 1, 2, 3, and 4 deals a lot with the civics. It talks about the legislature of the Virgin Islands, the governors, the various legislatures from Danish time to the present, the different governors from the Danish times to the present. And also deal with judges and magistrates. So I think the book is well written, and it's a very good book when it comes to Virgin Island history, because it contains not just the civics and the geography, but the actual history. When you get to and I'm going to take some time and just go through it a little bit more in detail what the chapters contain. Okay? One of the things that impressed me about the book and how it's written is that at the end of every chapter, he focuses on about 4 or 5 outstanding Virgin Islanders. For example, chapter 1 starts off with geography, how the Virgin Islands were formed, the location of the Virgin Islands, location of places to each other using a compass, the population of the islands, the culture of the islands, how the U.S. Virgin Islands were divided, and then that chapter ends off with a profile on historical figures such as Denmark Vesey, Alfonso Piggy Gerard, who was an outstanding athlete. He was one of the first baseball players, local baseball players from the Virgin Islands to be drafted into to play the major leagues, to play professional baseball. And we know that there's a housing project here in Christiansted that's named for Alfonso Gerard. And then he also deals with John D. Morwin. John D. Morwin, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, from the prominent Morwin family in Frederiksted. John D. Morwin was our first local governor. John D. Morwin was a white man, but he was local. He was born right here in St. Croix, and many other members of his family actually were born right here in St. Croix. And for those who might not know, he's also, through marriage, they're also connected to the Lovett family and some of the other prominent families here. But John D. Morwin was the first local, Virgin Islands governor. Okay? And then he deals with, then there's a chapter review. At the end, there's also a review of the chapter. So again, we could see the book was really written as a textbook. And it could be used on the elementary level, and I believe it could be used also on the junior high and high school level. Chapter 2 gets into St. Croix, the U.S. Virgin Islands. He talks, I guess, about how the islands were founded, and he deals with the flags. Talks about the 7 flags that flew over the island of St. Croix. And just for clarification, we need to understand that 7 flags did not fly over the Virgin Islands. 7 flags flew over only St. Croix. Okay. And he talks about how St. Christiansted, the town of Christiansted, was founded, when the year it was founded, how it was laid out by the Danish. And well, I could tell you, St. Croix was actually purchased by the Danish from the French in 1733. But the Danish did not attempt to settle the island. They did not attempt to build a colony or settle the island until 1734. And that's about when I think the town of Christiansted was laid out. The town of Frederiksted was laid out a couple of years later on. But it's all, these dates are all here in the book. Then he talks about St. Thomas and how St. Thomas was also purchased. And St. Thomas was actually part of the Danish West Indies before St. Croix. St. Thomas and St. John were first owned by the Danish before they even bought St. Croix. He gets into how Charlotte Amalie, the capital city of Charlotte Amalie, was laid out. And he talks also about Water Island. And we know that Water Island a few years ago was, by legislation, made the 4th Virgin Island. And Water Island is a little island just right near the harbor of St. Thomas. And there's a section where he deals with our neighbors, and I would imagine it's the other islands in the Caribbean, such as the British Virgin Islands. They are our closest neighbor, and Puerto Rico. And he deals with the Caribbean Sea. And he then deals with also the Atlantic Ocean. At the end of chapter 2, he profiles Clarice Adina Thomas. And I would imagine from the names, most people who are familiar with the book profiles of outstanding Virgin Islanders. Uh, you will recognize some of these names from that book because I believe what he has done is he has selected certain names from profiles of outstanding Virgin Islands or Virgin Islanders and include them in this book. Again, the name of the book is By the Bayside, and the idea for the name actually came from the fact that he says that it was by the bayside that a lot of stories were passed on. People sat down and chat a lot by the bayside under the coconut tree next to listening to the surf, the water, the waves coming to shore and go back. And it is in that environment, that setting, that elders would sometimes pass on stories to the younger generation. And I believe Mr. Willax is actually citing his experience with that because Mr. Willax, as you know, as most of us will know here, that he grew up in Gallows Bay. And Gallows Bay was a little village right near the sea. It was basically a fishing village right near the sea, right up here to the eastern part of the town of Christiansted. And we all know from, a lot of the elders used to gather by the seashore, under trees next to the sea and exchange stories, tell jokes, you know, exchange news, talk about the latest happenings, whether locally or nationally. But people gathered by the sea, under the bayside, by the bayside, and they exchange, the conversations and, exchange stories and whatnot. So Mr. Willax is actually drawing on his own experience growing up. And I'm sure that he would have experienced that because he grew up right here in Gallows Bay and it was just a hop and a skip from the sea. Well, chapter 2 ends up with his focus on Miss Clarice Adina Thomas, and I believe Miss Clarice Adina Thomas, if I'm not mistaken, she may have been a nurse, I believe, but not from St. Croix, but she may have been a nurse. I have to admit, I'm not familiar with everyone listed in profiles of famous Virgin Islanders, especially most of the people who have been, from St. Thomas and St. John. I am familiar with the names, but I'm not too familiar with their lives and exactly what they did. So you can excuse me for that, but you can always consult the book, Profiles of Famous Virgin Islanders, or you can consult Mr. Willax's book, By the Bayside. And because at the end of the chapter, he tells you about these people, what they did, what their contributions were to the society. After Miss Thomas, he mentions Jose Antonio Jarvis. Now, we all know Mr. Jarvis was from St. Thomas, a very prominent person. He was a scholar, not really into politics, but he was a writer, a scholar, and a community activist, as well as other things. Mr. Jose Antonio Jarvis, and there's a school, it was a school in St. Thomas named in his honor. Then next he focuses on Miss Eulalie Wilson Rivera. Miss Eulalie Rivera was another outstanding educator, a culture bearer here in St. Croix, an activist. She was a teacher, principal, and she had held some various positions in the Department of Education. And a school in Grove Place was named in her honor. And then there's the review of chapter 2. Chapter 3 goes on to mention the important facts about the Virgin Islands. It deals with the United States of America, the United States flag, the Virgin Islands flag, the Danish flag. Talks about the official flower of the Virgin Islands, the official bird. Well, the official flower we know is the ginger thomas. Some people refer to it as yellow cedar, but we know it as the ginger thomas. It's a bright yellow flower, and I believe it might be in bloom now. It usually comes in bloom coming around November, December time, coming after Christmas. You can find the ginger thomas in bloom. And it's so beautiful. You look all over the hills, and then you see these yellow blossoms in between that whole sea of green, So it's a nice, some beautiful sight. And he also talks about the official traditional music, which deals with Quebec, because he deals with Quebec. And I'm happy to say that I was one of the people who contributed to that part of his book. I contributed quite a bit of information to him about recorded music, you know. So he talks about all of that here, and then he mentions the Virgin Islands anthem. The Virgin Islands anthem was All Hail the Virgin Islands, which was written by Mr. Alton Adams, who, as we know, has the distinction of being um, the first black bandmaster of the U.S. Navy. And Mr. Adams had a band in St. Thomas, and his in at the after the islands were sold to the United States in 1917. The islands were administered or run by the Navy. The military is who ran. It was a military government who controlled the islands and ran things for a number of years. And during that time, they recruited Mr. Alton Adams and his entire band from St. Thomas to join the Navy. And they did join the Navy. And what Mr. Adams did is that I guess he had a survey of some kind, did some type of a survey, but he recruited the best musicians at that time from all three islands, the best brass band musicians. Then the brass bands was something new at that time in 1917. Community bands. Of course, they weren't called community bands at that time. They were known as municipal bands. Sometimes they were called industrial brass bands. But these were groups, basically community bands that you have. Most cities or towns have these bands. They play music for the community free of charge in the parks, and they play in parades and these type of things. They play for maybe official functions and whatnot. But Mr. Adams and his band were recruited in the Navy, and they joined the Navy in 1917. And then he recruited some other musicians from St. Croix and St. John that made up the Navy band. And that Navy band was uh, quite popular and well known. And they traveled. They did some traveling throughout the U.S. I believe more on the Eastern Shore. They traveled a lot to different cities, performing and giving concerts and whatnot. And for a time, I believe they were stationed in Cuba at Guantanamo. I believe it was would have been Guantanamo Bay. And apart from that, they were also spent the times when they came home to St. Croix. I mean, to St. Thomas. So when the band, the headquarters basically was St. Thomas, But when they came to St. Thomas, then the members who were from St. Croix would just come over to St. Croix, and it was amazing because when the band came to the Virgin Islands, visited the St. Croix contingent, they formed a band, with other members, other musicians who were here, because there were other musicians who were not a part of the Navy and that stuff. And so uh, when they visited, you would have a brass band in Christiansted, and then you would have one in Fredericksted. Those members in Fredericksted started a band, and the members in Christiansted, they started a band. So you would have like two small brass bands, while the Navy members were visiting. Of course, when there was time for them to go out and leave and travel and whatnot, well, everything else was put on hold, and they would travel. He also speaks about the Virgin Islands March, which is actually the Virgin Islands anthem, same thing, uh, written by Mr. Alton Adams. Something. Yeah. We need to take a break. Right. Okay. Yes. I wasn't even aware of the time and start reading and getting involved in things, and the time just goes by, folks. We need to take a break, make some money for the station, pay homage to our sponsors, and we will be right back.
Perfect. That was what she was saying. I think we're Here we go.
Good morning, and welcome back. Welcome back to another Friday morning gathering of Around the Table here with your host, Dimitri Pikey Copemann. And here right now, I'm in the middle of doing a small review of a book that was written by Mr. Harold Willacks, who we know is a judge. And he has written this book, and it's basically a text for written for school age people, and I believe it can be used from anywhere from about the 4th, 5th, 6th grade all the way up to the ninth and 10th grade, and probably even beyond, because a lot of the print is very easy to read. So, but I find it to be a very good book, and it can fill the need that we have right now for a text in the public schools. But we have a caller, so let's go straight to the phone lines. Good morning, caller, and welcome.
Mike, welcome back.
Yes, man. Thank you, man. It's good to be back, man. Yes.
Yeah, I know it was a short sabbatical, but on Fridays I used to be so besides myself because I didn't have you to listen.
Oh man, well I miss the radio audience too, man. You miss people, man. You get accustomed to people, and and then
Oh, of course.
then when you're not there, you're not there, they're not there, you begin to miss them. Yes, man. But everything went all right, and I would say now, I went to have a surgery done on my eye.
Okay.
I had cataract removed from one of my eyes.
Okay.
I didn't
Yeah,
realize.
well, you said many times you couldn't read good and you couldn't see so well. And
Yes. I had been having problems with reading and seeing. And at one time, I remember I was reading something here, and I just had to stop because I just couldn't see it. The print. It was partly because of the background. It was the words were printed on, and it was extremely difficult for me to read, so I had to just stop. But yeah, I've been having that problem for some months now, for quite a while from last year, and I mistakenly thought it was just my eyes getting weaker, and so I was buying these glasses, over the counter glasses, and every couple of weeks I would realize I have to buy a stronger one. I keep buying strong until I reach up to one of the strongest one, and I notice, well, hey, things still going bad, So
the strongest one is 3.5 or plus.
yeah, man. I think I had one. I think I was using one that was what might have been
0.75?
might have been close to that. It was might have been about two something. Might have been about two something. I can't remember.
That's low, man. That's low. You got the guy go up to 3.5 or plus.
Well, I had a little sticker here. I just took off the sticker off the glasses for the first time. I had it here, and I don't know where it disappeared to now. But anyway, I noticed that.
How is your sight now?
Oh man, listen, man, my sight is beautiful, man. It seems as if it's even better than what I was born with.
Good. Let me just say something since you've answered this problems with eye situation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much our home in Ireland has come up to improve to dealing with optometry, ophthalmology, and this type of stuff. Stateside, and the doctor that I go to, the ophthalmologist, is called middleman eye. And let me tell you, if there are 25 stars or rooms for him to see people with and do exams and stuff, all of them are computerized.
Well,
you always say the eye is the window of the soul.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Nim, let me just cut you off here a minute to say this, but I'll let you speak. But let me just say this. Let me just say this. Since you mentioned about stateside in comparison to home here, I will tell you, I went to the people I dealt with here was pleasant. Pleasant
Okay.
Ophthalmology.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, they have an office in St. Thomas too. They have one here in St. Croix. And the main doctor there is a man named Kevin Stewart.
Yes.
And I'm gonna tell you something. I give those people all praises. They are excellent.
Good.
Okay?
Good.
Pleasant Ophthalmology, they are excellent. You know, a lot of times we criticize the local healthcare institutions and whatnot, and we say, when some people say, "Oh, I go in states because these people here already know what they're doing and all this kind of thing." But let me tell you, Pleasant Ophthalmology, they know what they are doing.
Right.
Okay, everything is computerized, and these people are thorough, and I like that they are professional and they are thorough. They do an excellent job. Okay,
Right.
excellent job, man.
And that's good to know, Pikey, because in St. Thomas, before I left, and we had become very close friends, a doctor from Africa, doctor, some people say Asefa, but Asafa. I've got either Nigerian or Ghanaian, I don't remember which. But he was the first I saw with that improved situation. I think he had 12 rooms, and all 12 was where he looks into the eye computerizedly. You see?
Oh, yeah.
And he has helped a lot of people. But what I find happen with some practitioners, medical, psych, whatever, it's not all that's after money. They all after money. And I proved that first with Dr. Schneider. The amount of operations he had done on people. He did one on my friend, Doreen Barnes from St. Croix. And when she gets out of the thing and was able to, well, Governor, how much I go? You all get up in my office and tell me, Chuck, this. You ain't got no money, you can afford to pay me. I mean, he just loved to help people. You see. And stateside, what I find with there's a Dr. Luzon in Middleman Eye that I go to. He is in no hurry. I have cataract. I have also the what you call there's another eye disease.
Glaucoma?
Right
Glaucoma?
Huh?
Glaucoma?
Glaucoma, yes, and cataract. But he is in no hurry to cut them. The man could have cut these things maybe 6 years ago. I'm even gonna say he could have if he was after money.
Yeah. Well, Pleasant deal with everything is laser. Laser.
Yeah, it wasn't the laser,
and I tell you, I didn't feel anything. The only thing I felt was the little prick from the needle when they administer some anesthesia. That's about it. That's about it. But I mean, and listen, he does work in St. Thomas. Okay, so he's always busy.
I heard about the company Pleasant.
Yeah, he's busy, Dr. Stewart. He goes back and forth between St. Croix and St. Thomas. But these people.
Finish with this, I think.
Yeah.
Let me see what it is that we're going to next. Oh, what he did for me, and he does for everyone, apparently, because I research it and I find there's not much eye operations to remove glaucoma and what's that until and unless it gets to where your sight is almost failing.
Well, there's no cure for the glaucoma, you know.
No.
What they do is they can delay it. They can delay it for a while, but there's no cure.
I can't comment to that. And the drops that he has me on, dromatidine and bromatidine, that holds the eye disease to some point. It will not cure it. Eventually, you will have to cut or do laser. But he's not in a hurry. So if it's working for me now for 5 years, why go trouble the blast did I? Me anyone on my eyes to begin with. So I just working lead that thing alone.
Right.
You know? Yeah. But I mean, still at the same one, and we get up on a different subject that I plan to. But let me just go to one that I
that's no problem, because really I wanted to mention Pleasant because these people are, I mean, they are thorough. They check you out weeks before the operation is to start. They have you come in. They have you come in at different times for a few weeks, checking you out and checking the eye and everything. And then when the day of the surgery itself, before they actually perform the surgery, they do different testing and check you out and all this type of thing. The surgery of itself lasts maybe about 10 minutes or so, maybe, And then after the surgery, you have to go in for follow up and they follow up and check to see if there's any infection or if the eye is working right and everything. So I appreciate that. I like that. These people are very, very good, man. They're very good. Of course, it's a very expensive procedure, operation and whatnot. So I'm thankful for having that health insurance, which Trump and his boys them now they want to destroy Obamacare, but I am thankful that Obamacare thing helping a lot of poor people, man. That is something to help poor people, and they just black people alone. A whole bunch of other people, man, depending on this ACA thing, what they call Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, But man, I think that was one of the greatest things that former President Obama could have ever done. A lot of people criticize him about a lot of things, but I think that Affordable Care Act was one of the greatest things he could have ever done because that thing is a help to poor people, man.
Let me go by saying this. I continually hear black race people tearing down Obama and siding with Trump with his fetch. Okay? And what they can't see, maybe because they got glaucoma, that what Trump is trying to do is wipe out not only a black race of people, but also poor white. His only intention is with billionaires.
Listen, I was so yeah, go ahead.
I did not realize, and I have asked for the United States and every one of these cars, I was in the streets with 7 million Americans speaking out against the shutdown. Okay? So, I was not aware that it was so much white people on food stuff.
That's the same thing. You took the words out my mouth. You took the words out my mouth. You took the words out my mouth. That is what I was very surprised to see that also.
Oh, yeah. The people out there crying when you see a woman crying.
Yeah, man.
Like, you're going to kill us, man. Our children will depend on this food. Know that there are scams and everything, but Jesus Christ, who needs it? It's not given to them from God's sake, man. You know, if they're going to be hungry, you see people eating out of a garbage pan. They go by McDonald's and go in the downstairs to eat. My God, I don't know. You see, but God, let's never believe God died and leave him in charge. So this is how we parading about the place, trying to wipe out people. They're all about to Hispanic countries. Listen,
you see how Epstein referred to him there in one of those documents, one of those emails. The dog that won't bark.
Thank you. But Pikey, if you remember, during Trump's first election, a niece and a sister won not only America.
Oh yes, I remember that. Yes. His sister, yeah.
Because another man. I think some people say sick. I don't think he is sick in some way, but he's very demented and evil and demon possessed. You will just believe a boat got drunk with it, so you can pump it. You kill them people and sit down on the hand and do nothing.
Well, it's 20 of them so far now. You bomb another one, I think yesterday or last night or something there.
70 people now died.
Yeah, 20 boats now and 70 odd people. Yeah.
But Pikey, what happened now is Venezuela has started to prepare for war.
Well,
what you call the local citizens who going and picking up their guns, they're handing them out to them because they say they're going to go down fighting. And I can't blame them. This man is no commander of the war. He's supposed to be commander in chief of forces.
But you didn't hear him.
America.
You didn't hear him a few months ago. You didn't hear him on national TV a few months back. They're saying something. He run the country and he run the wall.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But you see, Pikey, and then I'm going out for you. I don't blame Trump. The same way I don't blame Albert Ryan, who's a threat to Africa.
Yeah, man, he going. My boy going on a safari.
Yes. Mikey, if you going on a state visit, you're going to visit the head of the state, not a retired head. Who did people take the fool, you know?
Well, hey, don't be surprised if we don't see the man riding on top of elephant, you know.
I want the elephant to ride and eat.
Like Hannibal crossing the Alps.
I want the elephant to ride and eat.
But listen, man. Before you go, I want to tell you, man, you have a young lady there in your state of Texas, there, man. I listen to this lady on TV talking, man. And this lady sharp, man. Crockett is her name. Jasmine Crockett, I think is her name.
Yeah, I know her very well. I call her baby Crockett daughter.
Listen, man, that lady is sharp, man. Listen, I admire her, man. She is sharp, man.
She is afraid of them. She and them get such a dog.
Oh no, man. She way above them, man. This lady.
She's not afraid of them. And in a racist state like Texas, she speaks up against all of them. That's what you're supposed to do. If you go get killed, calling them out. Don't go high and say, because people say something for these people, cut my food stuff. I don't say nothing for the hump of my training college. No, because again, the thinking that he got for nothing else. Like, yeah, God, the president,
oh God, man. I'm sorry to hear that. I ain't want to hear that. Oh God, man. Take it easy though. Take it.
I got that control, but
yes.
I get very emotional.
I can understand. Yes.
Yeah, I get very emotional, particularly where some people don't. And I said, okay, but the son doing the damn thing we could do. Who said that? What do you mean they let you could do? Well, I don't care if you wear a bulletproof armament from the head to his toenail. They get boys on who knows to take you out. Okay? Time will tell. I got.
Yes, man. Okay, man. Take it easy.
Yes,
all right. Okay. Yes, folks. Yes, man. I tell you, I have to give praise to Pleasant Ophthalmology. That eye surgery place out there by Bonera. Those people are professional, Mister. They are professional. I can tell you, that's one place that you don't have to worry about having to go off island for any eye surgery or anything to do with eyes. You could go right to Pleasant. And these people are going to do a professional job, great job. I don't even have enough praise for them because let me tell you, man, before I had that, so I thought my sight was going. I was had a lot of anxiety. I was a little frightened. I was saying, Lord, I hope these people don't make a mistake. Somebody don't make a wrong slip, and then next thing I lost my eye and this kind of thing, because they show you before you go into surgery, even long before you go to surgery, from the time you make an appointment with them and whatnot, and they show you a documentary. They show you a little film, a little documentary about the procedure of how they remove the cataract from your eyes, and it's all done with laser. And they actually have to put in a lens and put in a new lens in your eye, and it's all done with laser. And I tell you, man, it's so professional. It's so, hey, you don't even feel a thing. You don't even know. All you know is they just tap you on your shoulder and tell you, you're finished. you could wake up now, But I'm telling you, these people do an excellent job. And what was a little troubling though is that the amount of people who are having problems with their eyes here in St. Croix. I met so many people at that clinic, place in ophthalmology clinic there in Golden Rock. I met so many people, some older than I am, some, and especially a whole lot around my age bracket. And there were so many people having problems with their eyes. But fortunately, for most of them, they came to the right place, and they had successful surgeries performed and their eyes and whatnot, especially for the removal of cataracts. The glaucoma is a different story. They told me with glaucoma, well, they can't cure that, but they can delay it. They can slow it down. If you get to the doctor in time, they can slow it down. They have certain, like Mr. Nils was saying, there's certain eye drops that they give you to use, and it will help to delay the advance of the glaucoma. But with the cataract, they can successfully remove a cataract, and it's all done by laser. Ain't nobody going there with your eye cutting nothing with no blade and doing this and that. I mean, at one point they showed me the frame of how it's done, and one point they showed where they stick a needle like below your eye to deaden the area as an anesthesia to deaden the area, but they didn't do that for me. They didn't use anything like that. They didn't stick any needle close to my eye or anything. They stick a needle in my hand, and that's where they administer some of the anesthesia through my hand. And that's it. That's the only little needle prick that I felt was when they administered anesthesia. But apart from that, I didn't feel anything. And they did an excellent job. The surgery went smooth. The only thing that I had a problem with is I almost had a problem with what my pressure was high, and I believe that partly because I was a little scared. I was a little frightened. I didn't know what to expect. It was my first time, and the anxiety and whatnot. And they saw that when because they check your pressure, they constantly, when that surgery is going on, there's a doctor who does the surgery, and then there are two other assistants. One of them keeps a constant check on your pressure. Then the other one really checks on the anesthesia, make sure that everything is going all right while you're being sedated. Make sure you don't have no problems, no other problems don't come up while you're under the anesthesia. So I can't. Oh man, I can't praise these people enough, man. They did an excellent job, and everybody who I spoke to before that went in before me, people that had it done before me, they said Playson did an excellent job. They do a very, very good job. And so I have to commend Dr. Kevin Stewart and the other doctors and all the assistants there at Playson Ophthalmology. There's an office here in Golden Rock, and then there's one in St. Thomas. But these people are very professional, Mr. Very professional, very, very good. I can't sing enough praises about them, Mr. Because I can't say they did an excellent job. And then after your surgery, there's also follow-up. They make sure you have to go in, after the surgery a couple of times, and they check your eye to make sure that it's healing properly, make sure that nothing is going right, make sure that everything is going right, I should say, make sure there's no infection and all this type of thing, and make sure that you could see well. And they do a thorough job, very, very professional. So and I guess, and I one of the reasons why I'm bigging them up is because two of my former students work there too. So of course they're not doctors there, but they work there, and but the people do a good job there. They do an excellent job of looking out for you and showing that care and concern. Before you go to surgery and after the surgery, they follow up and whatnot. I mean, it's just so good. I mean, they just do such a wonderful job. And so when it comes to that, you don't even have to travel off island. You could get that done right here. And like I said, there's so many people right now in St. Croix suffering from eye problems. And I believe it's partly with the sun. The sun has a lot to do with it. Sometimes the sun is so hot and the glare from the sun is such that it affects your eye and you're not even aware of it. But it does damage to your eyes without you being aware. So, I think a lot of people might need to start using shades, or sunglasses, to help protect the eyes from the glare of the sun. Yes, man. Well, anyway, I'm going back to Harold Willox's book, By the Bayside, a book entitled By the Bayside. And for those of you who might be looking at online and looking at the stream online, this is what the cover of the book looks like. And I think it's a very good book, and it's a very good start. And I have always been saying we may not have the best Virgin Islands history books, but we have some good ones, and it's a start. We can start. We can start to teach Virgin Island history with the books that we have. These two books by Harold Willox are The Umbilical Cord and this one By the Bayside. I think are excellent books that we could make a start. And as we go along, we can make improvements. Things don't have to start off being perfect, but we could work towards that. As we go along, we could make them better. But the important thing is to get started. And I think this book offers a very good start. As I said before, at the end of every chapter, he profiles these various outstanding Virgin Islanders. At the end of chapter 3, he deals with Arthur A. Richards, who was the dean of the University of the Virgin Islands at one time. He also talks about Stanley Jacobs. Yes, man, my fellow musician, Stanley Jacobs, the Copemann. Yes, there's a profile on him. And then there's a profile also on Alton Augustus Adams Sr., the man who wrote the Virgin Islands March, and who was the first black bandmaster of the U.S. Navy. And then there's at the end of every chapter, there's always the review of the chapter. And then chapter 4, he deals with the weather and the climate. There's a section deals with temperature, weather, climate, and the seasons. And one section that deals with the temperature of the Virgin Islands, average temperature and rain in the Virgin Islands. And then another section deals with natural disasters that threaten the Virgin Islands. There's a section that deals with hurricanes. And we have one that deals with the hurricane wind scale, have hurricane definitions. We have parts of the hurricane section that deals with tornadoes, earthquakes, aftershocks, floods, wildfires, and things like these are very important for our students because here we live in a hurricane zone. We live in a zone that is periodically hit, well, I should say annually hit by natural disasters such as hurricanes, storms, floods. And occasionally there's a slight earthquake. We have never, well, in these modern times, we have never really suffered any major earthquakes, but we have had floods. There's usually aftershocks, floods, small tornadoes sometimes, or water spouts and hurricanes and stuff like that, and excessive raining. And these are important things for our students to learn about. Not just as well as learning the history, they should learn about these things because we have to live under these conditions. So it makes perfect sense for our students to actually learn and study about these things, especially the different parts of a hurricane. And then that's chapter 4. And then the chapter 4 ends up with he profiles Miss Edith Barr, another outstanding Virgin Islander I believe she was from St. Thomas. There's a library in St. Thomas named the Edith Barr Library, Public Library. And then he also profiles Mr. Guy Benjamin, who was an outstanding educator from the island of St. John. Then he speaks about Mr. Charles Henry Emmanuel from St. Croix, another outstanding educator from St. Croix. And then he goes to a review of chapter 4. When we get to chapter 5, chapter 5 deals with the history now, the actual history. And so in this different sections on the history, you have an early history of the Virgin Islands. Then you have the Africans, the European history of the Africans in the Virgin Islands, a history of the Europeans in the Virgin Islands. Then there's a section of Denmark and the Virgin Islands. And then the chapter finishes out with a profile on Edward Wilmot Blyden, another outstanding Virgin Islander. Jean Emmanuel, another outstanding Virgin Islander. He, of course, he has passed away, but he was living up to within recent times. Yes, Mr. Jean Emmanuel. I think most people, especially on St. Thomas and a lot on St. Croix, will be familiar with Mr. Jean Emmanuel. He lived on St. Thomas, but his family was from here at St. Croix. And then he also profiles Miss Amita Clarita Natalia Burnett. That individual I'm not too familiar with. I'm not really familiar with her. But again, chapter 5, at the end of every chapter, he profiles these different outstanding Virgin Islanders. Then we move to chapter 6. Chapter 6 deals with the issue of slavery. And under the slavery, there's a section that deals with Danish slavery. Then there's another section that deals with the triangular trade. Of course, in history, you know, the triangular trade ran from, it was from Africa to the Caribbean to Europe and then to Europe. From Europe to Africa, from Africa to the Caribbean, and from the Caribbean back to Europe, the triangular trade. Then there's a section that deal with the Middle Passage. The Middle Passage is the term that is used to refer to that journey of the Africans from Africa to the Caribbean, the Middle Passage. Then there's a section that deals with slavery in the Virgin Islands. Then a section that deals with the life of the slaves, how the slaves lived, the daily living of the slaves in the Virgin Islands, things that they did and how they lived, the conditions and whatnot. Then there's a section that deals with the great houses. The great houses was where the plantation owners, the masters, live. Then there's a section that deals with the slave quarters. He talks about the slave quarters at the time. Then there's a section that deals with the cane fields, talks about the cane fields. Then there's a section that deals with the harvest time, the time when they will harvest the sugar cane, which was usually around January to February time was when they harvest sugar cane. But I should tell you that there were some estates. I don't know about St. Croix and St. John. I don't know about St. Thomas and about St. John. But I could tell you that on St. Croix, there were certain estates here on St. Croix that would produce sugar canes twice a year. They would harvest sugar cane twice a year. Yeah, the ground was so fertile, and usually there was a water course or a waterway running through that cane field or around the estate somewhere in the area that made that particular area very fertile, and the people was able to harvest cane twice a year. Okay, twice a year. And I've heard my grandparents speak about that. You know, certain places that harvested cane twice in 1 year. Okay. And then this chapter 6 ends out, he talks about Brother Cornelius. Brother Cornelius was a slave here in St. Croix. I believe he was taken to Denmark, I believe, and he was converted to the Christian religion at some point. Then he also talks about Judah Philippe Benjamin, another outstanding Virgin Islander, Judah Philippe Benjamin. Then he speaks about Peter Jackson. Well, I could tell you about Peter Jackson. He was an outstanding athlete, a boxer or pugilist, in other words, one of the early black heavyweight champions in the world. Peter Jackson was born here in St. Croix, but as a young boy, he traveled with his parents to Australia, and that's where he made his home. He lived the rest of his life in Australia, and he became a boxing champion, the heavyweight champion of Australia. And at one point, he even traveled to the U.S. and did some fighting in the United States, where he defeated a few of the top fighters in the United States at the time. This would have been in the 1800s. And Peter Jackson. I know that there's a book written by an Australian author. Can't remember his name, but I've seen the book. There's a book about Peter Jackson, the life of Peter Jackson. I was able to see some photos of Mr. Peter Jackson in his young days, in his prime, and he seemed to have been just a naturally built athlete. He had a very athletic figure, his body, he was man, he looked like a Greek god, I mean, he didn't have the big bulging muscles like somebody who was actually lifting weights and all this kind of thing. He was just a naturally athlete, natural physique, man, great physique, and he was an outstanding boxer, Mr. Peter Jackson. He was so great that in Australia there's a statue. Someone made a statue in his honor. There's a statue in one of those cities in Australia today. You can travel there and see the statue of Mr. Peter Jackson. And it's such a shame that right here in St. Croix, where Mr. Peter Jackson was from, where he was born and grew up to at least a boyhood, there is no statue or anything to honor him. And that should be rectified. We need to change that, because Peter Jackson not only made boxing history, but he made history as a swimmer and a diver. I mean, in water sports, he was very outstanding in area. Not much is said about him in those areas, but they usually mention him as a boxer. But man, he was a perfect athlete, and he introduced certain swimming and diving techniques to the Australians back in the 1800s. He was so influential, such a great man that the great American boxer who lived a short time after, Jack Johnson, when he visited Australia, he paid a visit to the grave site of Mr. Peter Jackson to pay his respects to Peter Jackson. He's one of the great heavyweight boxers of that time. Then ends with a review of chapter 6. Then we get to chapter 7. Chapter 7 deals with rebellion. And under the section, under rebellion, there are a few sections. I believe, I think we have a call coming in. I'm not sure. Yes, I think we have a call coming in. So let me just stop here and just take this call. Good morning, caller. Welcome.
Yeah, Pikey, I didn't mean to start.
No, man, that's all right. You anytime.
Yeah, but some of the names that you call are so familiar to me. People that and those people that are being recognized in Harold William Pope, of course. And people that I had some good relationships with, to include Dr. Arthur Richards. Arthur, right?
Yes, Arthur Richards. Yes.
Yes, Judge Almeric Christian. Julie Rivera, of course. Oh my God, I was like my second mommy. She was vice chair of the Housing Authority. So we had a lot of time together in meetings, even when we traveled to Washington to look for more money, testify for more money for housing. And Jean Emmanuel, of course, an ICMer. He has a Croatian, but
in St. Thomas. Yes, of course.
Yes, he was a professor at the university, I think.
Yes, he was a professor at the university. As a matter of fact, I should have mentioned the fact that he and Mr. Gilbert Sproul were the ones, I think, instrumental in starting this celebration of the
Pan-Africanist?
Well, that too, but also the St. John Revolution. They were the ones that really spearheaded that keeping up of the St. John 1733. Yeah, yeah, they're the ones that have that started that, and they have kept it going for some years. Yes.
Right. And as you mentioned, Dr. Gilbert Strong,
Hmm.
his name was called on another station yesterday or 2 days ago
Hmm.
with regards to the 1733 thing. Not an enactment, but they do it, they go over this thing and people go to visit and walk down to the different
Right,
areas. And
right. They go up to I think is Annabog. Is Annabog is the place? Yes, yes,
Annabog Ruin,
yes.
And, I heard that somebody was saying on the radio, he is not so healthy as before, particularly with his legs. And
That is true. That is true because I saw him earlier this year. He was here in St. Croix. I was helping him with some things. He's writing something about. I guess I could say he's doing something on Ira Myers, Dr. Sachs. Yeah. Yeah, and so he was walking. When I last saw him, he was using a cane. His legs was really bad. He wasn't in too good health. Yes.
Yeah, but we have people like him, and even Bob Ryan, the leader, who I heard is not too well himself, but their mind is still very sharp.
Oh yeah, oh yes. Mm-hmm.
And this is where they have to. I'm sure there's a lot of writings that they have done, and maybe somebody will take them up and turn them into books.
Mm-hmm.
Because these guys got some history under the belt.
Oh yes, and I one of the things about Dr. Sproul is that I think for a very long time, I don't know if there's anyone else now, but for a very long time he was one of the only people I believe in the Virgin Islands who knew the Dutch Creole language. That old Dutch Creole.
It's very fluent in that.
Yes.
But let me tell you something, but it's good in that too as well as Spanish.
Okay. Well, I know Spanish, yes. Yes.
Okay. These guys, they no slouch. And I think there's some documented information in regards to Dr. Sproul, and I may have it backwards. It's either 12 language and 6 dialects, or 6 dialects and 12 African languages that this man speaks.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? And it was even surprising to me, and one of Mario showed the other day, to her that he had a daughter that lived in, I think it was Zimbabwe, I believe, or in Africa, South African nation.
Well, I know he has a daughter that lives here in St. Croix. I know.
Yeah, but there was someone that a daughter, I don't know.
Another daughter, yes. Okay, well, it's possible. Yes, possible. Quite possible.
I don't know his children, but I know him well, and that was living in Africa.
In Africa, okay.
Nation.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But it just proves to show. But going back to Harold Williams, and I didn't hear yet, but I'm sure you haven't read all, because in regards to sports, I didn't hear anything about Elmer Plaskett and what name Horace Clark.
Yeah, well, I believe. Well, I know these people are listed in the book profiles. Now, I don't think he was able to use all of the names from profiles, but like I said, what he did is at the end of he has 12 chapters in this book, right?
Okay.
And at the end of every chapter, he lists about 4 outstanding Virgin Islanders.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm just up to chapter 7 now, but I don't know if he mentioned those 2 names that you just talked about, but I know that those names are mentioned in the book by Ms. Ruth Molina, Profiles of Famous Virgin Islanders.
Yes, I know that I'm there.
Yeah.
And I mentioned them only because I have worked with these two guys in housing, in the sports section of housing, sports division, and also to include the young fellow, the park, his name after him, what's his name? Oh boy. I believe he's out of Jesus. His name is at the tip of my tongue.
What this person did?
Baseball.
Oh, you mean Horace Clark? Not Horace Clark.
No. A young fellow out of them.
Oh well, from Frederickstead you had. Major Copemann. Yes.
Yes. I know them because I work with them, but
right.
I know that they're much more that I probably don't
Okay, well, I'm happy belated birthday, man.
Thank you. And I was happy when I received 3 of Liston A. Monsanto's autograph books
Okay.
that can keep bits and pieces and the supplement. Let me tell you, they're not big heavy books. They may be about 50 pages each. But let me tell you, so you talk about information. Now, I remember his first book. It might not have even been his first, but it was the book called oh God, what it is now, boy, it's on my mind. But anyway, it dealt with when he been in the government for like 40 years or so. And mostly, I believe in Department of Finance and IRB.
Okay.
And because of the things that he spoke up about and stand for, that was straight up a lot of crookedness in that department. I mean, the only thing they didn't do to Liston was, well, they tried to fire him. Of course, he always win them. This guy is something like Bob Bryan. They don't lose no case against the government. They're not just lawyers, but they know the government so much more than some commissioners and governors know it.
Oh, yeah.
So they don't trick them up all the time. You see? And it's a good thing that we have such people, but they are getting up in age and leaving us. And I just close with saying something on Bob Bryan that irritated me earlier this week. He called into a talk show. The host of the show, and the guest of the show, tried to me, was willfully trying to rattle Ford Feathers, not understanding what Ford was trying to say to him. The gentleman was supposed to be running with about 25 other people. I don't know where the hell they're going. But this guy keeps telling Ford, you're going to come out and publicly and Darcy, you're going to come out and campaign for me. Ford is trying to tell me, without telling, well, fellow, I am not well. He didn't say not about his health.
Right.
He said, I have done my part. It's time now for me to rest. And let others come out and do these things. If your name is on the ballot, and I feel in my conscience I could vote for you as governor, I would do that.
Right.
But if I continue to laugh, God, oh, like you're getting weak, get down you.
What?
Oh, Jesus
Oh, man.
Christ. I mean,
What?
why should one man do it all? What about the rest of us?
Right. Right. That's right.
You know? But, you know, I just close with saying that, but I was glad I had the time, and I remember to uplift my Sabanero big brother, as I always call him. And he said he is not right yet. He got more books coming out.
Okay. Well, I know Brother R always sing his praises, my son.
Pikey, you got your books. I tell you, like I used to tell Ford, you got enough information, get books out. I'm talking to myself too, you know.
Yeah, I hear you.
I got to get my I said I'm gonna get one out before the end of the year.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm into so many things, Mikey. I don't know how the hell like maturing them cost me all the time. So when you don't sit down right yourself, you're doing so much things.
Yeah, I know that thing. I know that because I thought when I retired I would have had a lot of time. Yes, I got a lot of time to do all the other things I couldn't do before. So, that's the thing.
Only now I traveling and getting in everybody's cars. It is just in me, okay? I just sit down and speak.
That's right. That's
Just
right.
like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
You gotta stay busy, man. Yeah, man. All the best to you, man. Enjoy the weekend. Yes.
Good rest of the day and a good weekend.
Yes, man. You too. Yes.
The rust coming on, right?
I haven't heard anything yet, but I would imagine I'm gonna when engineer come back in, I'm gonna ask her if she knows anything.
I'm gonna be listening out anyway.
Okay, good.
Okay, bye.
Yes, and I was saying chapter 7 deals with rebellion. And under rebellion, you got a section that deals with conspiracy, one that deals with the Maroons. Then there's the 1733 rebellion. Then there's a section that deals with the 1848 emancipation, section that deals with the 1878 firebomb. Then there's a section that deals with the coal workers strike that took place in St. Thomas. Then there's a profile on Moses Gottlieb, Bodo. And then there's profiles on the queens of the firebomb. The only thing I find here with the queens of the firebomb is that and this is before, and I guess he had done this before. Miss Kathleen Dowling wrote her book and brought a lot of the information out about the emancipation, and also before Mr. Wayne James had done a lot of his research and brought information about the firebomb and about Queen Mary and them, because he has a profile on the queens of the 1878 firebomb, and he lists Queen Mary Thomas. There's Agnes Solomon, Queen Agnes. Then he has Susanna Abramson, but he has Susanna Abramson mixed up with Queen Matilda. We have since found out that Queen Matilda McBean was a separate person to Susanna Abramson. Susanna Abramson was the one known as Batam Belly. She was the third one, and then the fourth would be Queen Matilda McBean. So I guess, Harold, you're gonna have to go back and do some revision here. Okay, and then it ends. Chapter 7 ends with a review of the chapter. Chapter 8 deals with under American rule, and he talks about the Navy, the section with the Navy rule, and then the next section deals with United States citizenship. That is when the Navy left, and well, that's before the Navy left, when the Virgin Islanders were granted by the Congress of the United States. They were granted U.S. citizenship. And then there's a section that deals with civilian rule. This is now when the Navy left and a civilian government took over in the Virgin Islands. And then it deals with the 1936 Organic Act. Next section deals with the revised Organic Act of 1954. And then there's a profile on Rothschild Francis. And then the chapter ends with a review. And I will have to continue next time. We're going to continue because the book has 12 chapters. And then besides the 12 chapters, there's a section that deals with days that are observed as holidays, but not celebrated, but just observed. And then there's a glossary. There's an appendix 1 that deals with the judicial branch. There's appendix 2 that deals with the executive branch. And then there's the appendix 3 that deals with the government secretaries, lieutenant governors of the Virgin Islands, and an appendix 4 that deals with the legislative branch and the presidents of the U.S. Virgin Islands legislature. And that takes us to the end of the book. But I will review those chapters next time we come, as long as the Creator give us life and strength to be here. Next week, Friday, we'll be here and we'll review the rest of that book.
Russ is coming in.
But for right now, I'm going to be heading out of town. And yes, Mr. Nibs, for you and for all of those who have been listening out and waiting, Russ will be in. Yes, Russ Christopher will be in this morning. So you can wait and listen out for Russ. I am going to off here in a minute or two. Yes, I'll be heading out of town, but I just want to wish everybody a happy and safe week and weekend until we meet here next week, Friday, for some more Around the Table on WSTX. Good morning.
Stand up for decency. Stand up for compassion.